These 5 tips that I'm about to show you change the quality of life of your gameplay significantly. Now, maybe you're brand new to Diablo 4, and if you are, welcome. If you're a returning player and you've been playing for a long time, maybe you missed these. These are going to be something that are very, very simple, but going to make a world of difference in how you approach the game and how you play. To start off, we're going to start with our options, then you're going to go over to your gameplay settings. Now, by default, these are not turned on. And I don't really know why, because they are so incredibly helpful. We're going to be talking first about the advanced tooltip compare. What that means, if you go and you pull up your inventory here and you look at a piece of gear, this is what it looks like. If you look at the very bottom down here, it says shift to compare. Now, if we pick up a controller here and we get the controller moving and we look at our items, on this one, it's going to be triangle to compare. I don't have an Xbox controller, so just make sure that you look down here at the very bottom, and that is going to be the button that you're going to hit to compare. What does compare mean? When we click on the compare button, that is going to pull up what we currently have equipped. So if you look right up here at the top, this says equipped, and then this is the one that we're going to be comparing to. What we see right now does not show us a comparison versus one. It just shows us what we're wearing and then what we're going to be putting on. So if we go back into our options, we go back to gameplay. We're going to go to turn on advanced tooltip compare. We're going to save the changes. And now we're going to bring back up our inventory here. When we look again, we now have green and red. The green is going to be what is going to be increased. Now, if we don't have, let's say on the top one there, strength, that is always going to be green because it is an option that we don't have on what's currently equipped. Now, let's look at the max life. The max life, because we have 1,160 on the Harlequin's crest, and we only have 594 on the other helmet, it is a difference of 566. This is going to show us a comparison between the two items with what we don't have, and then the difference between whether it's positive or negative. This is a very, very big quality when you are leveling. Once you have gotten into the endgame builds, most of the time you're going to know what gear you're looking for. When you're leveling, if it says green, you put it on. Pretty much how it goes, especially in the early stages of the game. Now, that is only the first part of this, because there is another part of advanced tooltip that we're going to talk about. And this is going to be your tip number 2. This is going to be back in gameplay. We're going to go to advanced tooltip information. This changes everything. When you see people talking about, oh, I found a max roll on this item, how do you know? Because if you look at our gear right now, all it shows is 594, 12, 4. How do you know what a max item is? We're going to pull back up our tooltip, and we're going to select advanced tooltip information. You're going to save your changes. We're going to close the menu, and we're going to go back to the same piece of gear. Now what it shows a range. We're going to start with the Adventurer's Helm. When you're looking at your mythic items, they are always going to be max. That's why there is no range. Now by range, I mean right here. It's going to show strength 139 to 157. That means that I have gotten almost a max roll on my strength. If I don't have the advanced tooltip information on, then I would never know that. This doesn't just work for your stats and your affixes or your tempers. It also works for your aspects. So if you come down to the bottom here and I look at this aspect here, it's going to show me that I have 30% out of a possible 35%. When you're looking at aspects, there's a difference between legendary aspects and ancestral aspects. That's what we're seeing here. What is the difference? But without having this on, you really don't have any way to know. And I don't know why the Blizzard doesn't have this set as a default, because to me, this is incredibly helpful. I want to know what's the best piece of gear so I can get the absolute best one on there. So that is everything that we're going to do, and we're going to save for our items. Now we're going to go back in. We're going to look at some character modifications that I love. We're going to head over to the accessibility menu. Right here, we're going to go to visual. If you notice the color of my cursor, it is a large cursor, and it is also a bright yellow. When you're in the middle of a fight, and you have a ton of monsters all over the place. There's explosions going off. There's flashing lights all over the place. Maybe you're with a lightning stork that has everything covering the whole floor. You want to be able to see where the cursor is so that you know where you're going to be going. What you're going to do, if this is not selected, you're going to make sure you select it. Without that selected, you see how it gets a little bit dull. Then if we go back here, and we can change the color of what you want it to look like. So if we make it black, probably not a great choice. We're going to go right back to yellow. We're going to select whichever color you want. You can select your high contrast color here. You turn that on. Now you can actually select what size you want the cursor. So if you go back to small, now these changes do not reflect until you hit save. So when we hit save, now it's very, very tiny. That would be very, very hard to pick out of a fight. So you want to make sure that you pick the size that's going to fit best for you. I like to be able to see where I'm clicking on the monsters so that I can know where it's at. So we select the largest size, we turn on a high contrast color, and then we pick the color that's going to best stand out for you. Pick different colors, go into the fights, see what you can see the best. But for me, I normally like the bright yellow with a high contrast and then the large cursor. The next thing that we're going to look at, and this is, again, we're going to be highlighting something so you can see exactly what it looks like. So we're going to scroll all the way down here, and we're going to head down to where it says highlights. Now, we're going to be able to display your player highlights, very similar to how we're doing it with the mouse. You're going to select this, and you can select whatever color you want. Let's go with the default that I have set up right here as green. When you hit save changes, and you go and you look at your character, you have this bright highlight around you. It is actually really, really cool to see. When you get into a group of monsters, now everything is going to stand out. You're still going to be able to see your character. We're going to go grab a whole bunch of things. When you run through monsters, you still stand out. So it makes it really, really easy to be seen, to know, and now my cursor is bright yellow. So this is just a really great quality of life if you're looking to make sure that you get seen, you don't die, and you want to be able to run through maybe the pits or the infernal hordes and not stand in anything. So that is your player highlights and your cursor highlights. Now there's one more change that they added in. People have been asking forever for a map overlay over the game. Very similar to something like it was in Diablo 2. Maybe it was in Diablo 3, cannot remember. But Diablo 2 had a map overlay. You could see the whole map right over your character. You knew exactly where to go. You didn't have to look in the corner. Now we spend all of our time staring in the corner of that map right over there instead of looking at the game, which is a beautiful game. So we miss out on a lot of things. Blizzard took some steps. Now, there is no overlay. I'm sorry if you got excited about it, but they did add in something that is going to be almost as good. It's going to allow us to not have to stare at the screen quite so much. So what we're going to be turning on is you're going to come up here and we're going to go to your HUD compass. That's a heads-up display that's going to be right in front of you. We're going to turn this on. We're going to leave off the high contrast for now just so you can see what it looks like. Save changes and we're going to close. We now have an arrow. That arrow is pointing to whatever we pin. So if I pin here and then I run, that arrow is going to change no matter which direction I go in. So now I actually don't even need to look at the map anymore. I can look right in front of me, I can look at my character, and I can see what is going on the ground around me. This is just your regular one. You can go back into the accessibility and you can change this color here. So let's say red doesn't stand out enough for you and you wanted to just do what I did with the other one. We're going to change it to a bright yellow. You can accept it, and then you can hit high contrast. You hit save. Now it has this nice little glow effect. You can run around, and no matter which way you go, you're going to be able to see the direction that you're going in. It is not as good as the pin on the map, but it is something, and it's a start in the right direction. So hopefully they're listening, and we're getting on our way to getting a map overlay, something. This will probably improve as it goes. If you notice that sometimes it doesn't change until I'm heading in that direction or past it. But once you hit your pin, it goes away. This actually will work for your quests too. If you pin a quest right here, my healing potion upgrade, still trying to figure out how to do that. It now puts my little arrow on my character for the quest that I'm doing. And you can do this for any quest. Dark Citadel. Now my character has a pin that goes the other direction. It is really cool. It helps a lot. You can actually watch the ground and you can look for things that are in front of you. So you're going to now go back and forth between the minimap and your arrow as you're running through. So it is a great change. Those are the 5 tips that I have for everybody today. Hopefully you found them helpful. Maybe it was something that you hadn't seen before that's been there for a little while, or maybe you're brand new to the game and this is going to change how everything feels. I'm live every night. Stop by, say hi, theorycraft with me. Let me know what you think in the comments. Let me know what you want to see from Blizzard that makes some changes for your quality of life for some of these settings. Catch you on the clip side.